All right, we are on air. It is Thursday, November 8th, and this is a meeting to check in on active development tasks for Backdrop CMS. Before we get into tasks, I did just want to reiterate a discussion we had in the Project Management Committee about GPL version 3. I announced this at the last weekly meeting too, but in case anyone missed that one, Backdrop Core is GPL version 2. But Backdrop Contrib should also be allowed to be GPL version 3 because there are sometimes other libraries that we would like to bundle with modules that use licenses that are not compatible with version 2 but are compatible with version 3. And so we had a vote in the Project Management Committee. Everybody agreed that we should make Contrib as flexible as possible. And so the remaining tasks for that are to update the documentation in the Backdrop Contrib group about how and when to use a GPL version 3 contributed project. And then that way, people who need to will have clear information on how to do that, including a link to the license file for GPL version 3 instead of just version 2. So that I'll try and do after this meeting, unless somebody else really wants to do it. And then they can get to it. All right, since our last weekly meeting, we've got 3 new Contrib projects. It looks like one called Footnotes, one called Flippy, which is a personal favorite of mine, and one called Mini CSS, which is a new theme. So I love seeing new themes in the Contrib group, which was great. Flippy is actually a project we've been waiting for backdropcms.org because we wanted to use that for our showcase section, so people can just hit next, 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 and browse through all of the sites in the showcase. So that's also super exciting that we all supported that, and now we can use it, so it's great. All right, speaking of backdropcms.org, there are 2 major issues that we talked about in the design and user experience meeting earlier today. One of them is updating modules, themes, and layouts pages. That's issue number 442. For complete update, you can go ahead and watch the design meeting from about an hour ago. And the other one is updating the homepage demo link, which is number 422. And there's also a detailed explanation of how that will work in the design meeting as well. So if anyone wants a more complete update, you guys can check the design meeting or watch it or jump to halfway through or whatever. So that's all of the high-level items for backdropcms.org. Normally, Nate would be here to do a progress report on Backdrop CMS itself, but he is currently on the other side of the country doing an all-day training, I think, today. So he asked me to go through the items. I've done my best to take a peek at the current status of each issue, but I might not be completely up to date on all of them. So if you guys know more than I do, feel free to jump in. All right, so let's start with issues for Backdrop 1.11.3, I think is our next version that comes out. We have one issue to add predefined color schemes for basis. We also talked about that in the design meeting, but basically we need to run through that, the colors in there through an accessibility checker to make sure that the contrast is high enough. If anyone knows how to do that or wants to do that, we could definitely use some help moving that issue forward. It's number 3209. There's also a possible issue with our fancy new color preview tool, but so far it's only popped up in Safari. The bug report is at 3295. If anyone wants to work on that, Safari-specific issues are always a little tricky, but we would like to fix that. We have one other bug report. The info status message caused a little bit of a design problem on an unrelated page. That's issue 3305. That issue was RTBC, which is great. That means that it'll be included in our next release, which hopefully will come pretty soon. And if anyone is interested in all of the other issues, they're tagged with the 111.3 milestone. We have that there available for people to take a look at if you want. The only thing is that there's a lot of bugs that are tagged as being like important enough to get into the next release that don't have any progress being made on them. So if you're looking at something in that issue, you really want to see it fixed, the way it's going to get fixed is someone has to do a pull request on it. So if you aren't able to do that or willing to, you can ping someone maybe in Gitter and find out if you can find someone to get an issue fixed. But those are all kind of like low-hanging fruit, like, oh, we would love to get these fixed issues on that milestone. All right, our next minor release, 1.12, is due out January 15th. That means code freeze will be Jan 1st. We've got some exciting issues on the block for that. There is issue number 2018, which it's funny that that might get in 2019, but that is adding core updates. Long term, we want to have the core updates be automatic, but the first step is to make them be manual. 1.11 includes a hidden button that will let you update your site manually. In 1.12, we want to make that button visible. So I'm not sure if there's a specific issue for enabling that button, but it is part of the 2018 meta. So and being on this list means we'll probably be focused on making sure that that gets in. Another thing we want to do is issue 1992, which is package signing. And that makes sure that the file that you downloaded to your site is the file that we wanted you to download from your site, and that nothing else has gotten in the middle and delivered anything naughty to you. And so that is coming along pretty well. We already have one proof of concept working. There's another one recommended on the pull request, so I think that'll probably get in with 1.12, which will be great. And we've got 2 possible ways to get that done. One of our oldest issues, issue number 37, tags for modules. I created a pull request a while ago. Apparently it's not working. There's some logic in there that is doing stuff it's not supposed to do. I'm going to try and take a look at that later today and figure out what the issue is and if we can get that resolved. I would love to see that get in. This issue, number 37, is a minimum viable product sort of the meta of what we wanted to do for cleaning up the modules page. But the major win here is that if we can get tags associated with each module, not only can we use the type search on the modules page to find them, but it'll give us a better way to filter the module listing on backdropcms.org and in the project installer in order to find the projects you want. So this doesn't necessarily improve the existing modules page as much as it will improve our ability to find projects in the future. So I think that it's still pretty important, even though it isn't as big as an overhaul as we originally wanted. All right, the next issue is one of my personal favorites. It's 1005. This is adding options element into core. So instead of having a massive text field into which you type a string and then a vertical pipe and then another string, and one is supposed to be a key, one is supposed to be a label for a select list or a set of radio buttons. Now it has this beautiful interface where there's actual text fields where you can decide to define the keys or not. You can order them. It's a huge improvement over the giant box into which you type magic strings. And that's something that existed for web form in previous versions of Drupal and Backdrop, and now it's something that we're applying to the field UI. So I am really looking forward to that getting in. I gave it a test drive a while back, and it was fantastic. I made a couple of recommendations. I think they've all been taken care of. So I'm really looking forward to trying that one again. I would encourage anyone else that has any strong feelings about user experience to give it a test drive as well. The next one, which is a huge issue, number 2632, is adding fieldable file types. So in Backdrop, files are already an entity type, which allows them to be typable and fieldable, but we don't yet have a user interface set up to make them fieldable. And so this is taking that fieldable interface from the file NB module in Drupal 7 and putting it into Backdrop. That is not a great user experience as it is, and so we're trying to do a little bit of cleanup on the file NB interface when it goes into Backdrop. It looks like Doc Wilman's been doing a bunch of work on that. He's asked for some feedback on the current pull request to see how much of what is there do we actually want included in Backdrop. Is there anything that we could clean up, not only in terms of UX, but in terms of the amount of code that we're pulling over. So if anyone wants to give that a test, I think feedback would be very welcome. I'm also looking forward to giving that one another try. I have a lot of opinions on how file entity does things incorrectly. I don't necessarily have ideas about how to do them any better, but I think that this is a great chance for us to make some significant improvements to that experience. Anyone who has any other strong feelings about Backdrop 1.12 can check the GitHub issue tracker. There's a milestone there. It's specifically for 112 issues. Our focus is pretty much on those issues I just mentioned, but if there is something else you would love to see in Backdrop and you are motivated to get it done, bring it to our attention and we'll throw it on the agenda that we talk about every week. And if it looks like it's close enough to get in and there's a lot of people who agree that it's a good improvement, we can definitely still slate it for 112. We have until January 1st to get all our major new issues in, which is still a month and a half, which depending on what it is a lot of time, especially with the holidays coming up. People are going to have time off from work. I need something to do with all that spare time.
Then there's one ticket that might be worth mentioning. So
Sure.
we should be keeping the libraries, the third-party libraries that we build with Ship with Core up to date. So issue 3355 is for CK Editor. And there's a couple of things there. The new versions bring some new features, but we decided that what we do is we'll take one step at a time. So the first thing is to update CK Editor for this release, and then for 1.13 we'll aim to add any new features. And there's also another.
What's the issue number for that one?
That's 3355.
3355. Okay.
And then there's another issue for updating jQuery and jQuery UI.
Okay.
So we are using 1.x and 3.x is out. At some point we should consider, I'm not saying for 1.12, but at some point we should consider updating to 2.x, which has a compatibility like companion library. I can't remember what it's called, sort of like a sheaf that you can add. So maybe for the next 1.13, we should aim to update jQuery too.
Okay, so I know with jQuery and jQuery UI, every time there's a major change to that, it requires a lot of testing and rewriting a bunch of stuff in Core. So that's something that we would definitely want somebody with a lot of JavaScript or at least jQuery experience to devote to testing and working on making sure we get that right. CK Editor, I'm not sure what the ramifications are of making a major version change. I don't think it changes as much from version to version as jQuery, but it would still be really good to get somebody to at least test the snot out of it once we get the new version in there to make sure that none of the special customizations that we've done need to be reworked at all. And I would imagine there probably are a couple of things we'll have to change, but that it wouldn't be complete rewrites like the jQuery stuff would be.
It has a 5.x version that came out. We were not planning, I think, to update to that because there are major changes to that. I can't remember. I looked at it maybe a year ago. But yeah, with both these tickets, what we could do is, because they're ongoing tickets, we never close them. Like we implement that and then we keep them open. Is maybe add a series of tests that we need to perform each time that we update to make sure that things work. And I would need some help with that.
That would be great. I think maybe just doing like a brainstorm session with a couple of people to kind of say, okay, what are the things that are most likely to break? And make sure that those things still work, like test an autocomplete and test, I don't know, a modal and test, just like a list of the things that we think that we've done a bunch of stuff with that might need a little extra focus. I don't know what those are, but I think maybe if we get, I don't know, 4 or 5 people to brainstorm, we could probably come up with a list of stuff that we think might be worth it.
If we can add that task list at the summary of the tickets, we can be copying it each time that we make an update and just make sure that we tick every one of them.
Yeah,
it would make it easier.
That sounds great. Did you add this first one to the CK Editor issue? I see a list there waiting.
Yeah, I started saying, I mentioned that before.
Do we have a similar issue for jQuery? I'm sorry, I didn't.
Yes. So there's an ongoing for jQuery 1 and jQuery UI 1.x, and this is 2493.
2493.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then there's a separate issue for considering updating to jQuery 2 or 3.
Okay. I've added those to the meta or the agenda, and we can keep talking about those each week. But I'll try and brainstorm some of the things for CK Editor that I think we should test. jQuery, I think, is going to be a much longer list, and we're going to need more people to help think about those.
Yeah. I mentioned this, that maybe a month before Code Freeze or somewhere, we should aim to merge it so that we can test any new pull requests, like the sandboxes, that they make sure that everything that we add doesn't break.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
I'm not sure how it works, because I know we have separate branches for 1.12 and then for the 1.11.x, and not every issue gets merged in both of them.
Yeah. I think we would probably just merge it into 1.12, so that if we need to do bug fixes between then and release, they could continue to come out without that change in it. But we'll defer to Jeff and or Nate and or whoever else is work meeting at the time to decide where it should go.
But the sandboxes that we have for the pull requests, they are off of the 1.x branch, right?
I think it depends where the pull request is.
Against which?
Yeah, so most of our pull requests are filed against 1.x, but if we wanted to test specific pull requests against a different branch, you can file your pull request against a different one. The sandbox will pull off that. I think that's how it works.
And when you edit the pull request, like, I mean, that's only the pull request author can do it. I think that you can edit the branch that it's filed against. So maybe that's a good, I think I've done this before. Yeah, okay, cool.
All right, so that's all I have for Backdrop itself. It doesn't look like Jeff or Laren are here today, so we aren't going to do an update on Backdrop for Good, but we do have a public issue queue if anyone has any time and wants to devote any resources to working on that project. There's issues in that queue you can grab and work on. Under the general discussion, we have one issue that we've been talking about the last few weeks about security releases for contrib projects. I changed that a little bit this week to include a couple of to-do items. One of them is to update the documentation in the Backdrop contrib group. There's a README file there that has a section on ongoing maintenance for contrib projects. We just need to add a paragraph about how to handle security releases. I don't know, Gregor, if you have time to do that today.
Maybe over the weekend, but what I've done is, with regards to that, is I did some research to see if we can add templates to the contrib group for each time that someone creates a release, but that is not possible in GitHub at the moment. So we can have templates for issues, but not for releases. Okay.
Yeah. So I still think writing the documentation in that place is a good first place to do it, because people, sometimes new maintainers, check there to see what they need to do for their stuff. I do think long-term it would be great if we could get single sign-up set up on backdropcms.org and a key added into the info file for maintainers. And then if your name, your login on backdropcms.org matches the name in that info file, we can grant you access to edit that node yourself. So there's a couple of different pieces we need to get there, the username and info file, but the single sign-on with GitHub, I think, so we can verify you are that user, is also really important. So I put a to-do here of getting single sign-up working for backdropcms.org, single sign-on with GitHub. And I think that there has been a lot of work in that area with the folks at CU. And so I think that we're probably a lot closer to that now than we were the last time we tried to set it up. So it might be worth revisiting and trying to make more improvements on that too.
Okay.
All right, well, that's all I have on today's agenda. Gregory, do you have anything else that we haven't talked about that maybe is worth it?
Not specifically, no.
Okay, well, I've got a lot of to-do items. I've got things I want to test that are coming along, and I've got documentation updates. So I'm going to go ahead and get to that. Oh, one thing I did want to mention, I went and took a look at the Wikipedia page today. It looks amazing. I know you did a lot of work on that. I don't know if, I think maybe Tim was involved in rewriting that too. So and everyone who worked on that, I just want to say really great job. It's really thorough. There's a bunch of references. It looks great. So
was it republished?
It does look like it's published now. There's only one thing I noticed is the top of it has like a username in the title, and I didn't know if that meant it was like assigned.
Then that means that it's not published.
Oh, it means it's not? Okay. But it was publicly available.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. So when you Google Wikipedia Backdrop CMS, it's not. Yeah.
Indexed.
I'm not sure how the process works. Maybe the name that you see is a moderator, a Wikipedia moderator, so we have to go through them, I guess. But I'm not sure what the process is. I'll try to find some time and republish it.
Okay. I think it looks really good, so hopefully when they look at it, they will agree.
Change their mind.
Yeah. Well, I noticed that, Joomla got flagged, same as Backdrop, as being, quote unquote, an advertisement. So I think they probably just had some automated script that went through, and depending on what your language was like, automatically unpublished a bunch of pages. I
think they have links with sort of like, see how we have the links that report this as spam. So if people read something and they see something that's out of place, they can report an article. Maybe too many people reported us in Joomla. Yeah, if they had legitimate or legitimately looking reasons. Yeah.
All right. Well, that's all I have for this week. I'll go ahead and take a look at that Wikipedia thing too and see if we can make anywhere, and I'll ping you on Gitter if I find anything. But thanks for coming to meetings today, and thanks everybody for watching live.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.